All right, so check this out. Okay, so I come from Turkey. I was born and raised in the States, but my family's from Turkey. Like all of my family. All of my family that's not like my parents and siblings reside in Turkey. And the part of Turkey that we're from, this is Turkey. For those of you who don't know, say hello. The province of Turkey that I'm from, there are 81 of them, is this province. It's called Rize. Here it is. It's on the Black Sea coast. And it is, IMHO, the most beautiful place on earth. It is full of these lush green mountains on which tea is grown. Turkey is the largest per capita consumer of tea in the world by like a lot. Like second place consumes like half as much tea per capita ish or something like that as Turkey does. Like it's crazy. It's like a part of, it's so deeply ingrained into our culture, which is why a lot of stuff on my channel is like tea branded. And so where that tea comes from is primarily the Black Sea coast, and the province that's famous for producing tea is Rize. This is my home village in Turkey. This is Rize. This is like a gross overcast day, so it's not the most beautiful. But if you zoom in here, you can see that the hillside is dotted with these like little rows of these are like tea bushes. So all of the whole mountainside here, like as far as the eye can see, this is all tea. It's like a huge cottage industry. And so like growing up, you know, I learned how to like harvest tea. I spent a lot of time harvesting and carrying tea around. Lots of tea. Anyway, the lush green territory. This is like Rize, right? So I go to Rize this summer. I go every summer, but this summer I went. It was constantly overcast. There's like a rainy season that happens in Rize. Usually the way the climate, it's like 3-ish weeks of rain and then like 3-ish weeks of sun, and it alternates. And that's just what summers and autumns are always like in Rize. That's just sort of how it is. But man, this is my childhood. Anyway, so I was in Rize, and there were a bunch of cousins because my visit there timed, it was right on top of the like the holiday of sacrifice, Eid al-Adha. In Islam, it's the it's sacrifice festival. Basically, it's like a federal holiday because you know there's a lot of Islam that happens in Turkey, and so everyone gets off of work for like a week basically. And so all of the cousins were back here because people don't actually live in like the city for the most part, or sorry, in the countryside. There isn't like a lot of sort of industry and business that happens, so people get educated and they move to like the big cities, similar to what happens in like a lot of the US. And so a lot of my family is located in Istanbul, but they're not based in Istanbul. No one's really like from Istanbul. Like if you look a few generations back, everyone has roots in like the rest of Turkey. But anyway, a bunch of my cousins were from Istanbul and they were hanging out in Rize. So we were like, hey, it's a party. All the cousins, we got a big reunion of the cousins. There were like 12 of my cousins, I think, that we all decided to like go on a trip together. And so it's like, okay, where do we go? Where do you go when you're already in like the most beautiful place ever? And the answer is that there are more beautiful places within like a few hours, like by car near to this area. So these are like the mountains, but it's not like crazy far away from sea level. In fact, I have an image here that shows you the view. There's an ocean view from my house. So you're not too far from the Black Sea. So we're all the way up here on top of a mountain that's about this elevation. This is like the city center of Rize. And then this is the Black Sea. So we're like right on the coast. And so there are these places, that's a lot of cousins. Bro, I've got like 40 first cousins. I have like a big brown family and everyone's got a million kids. I got a lot more cousins. Anyway, all the cousins are here and we're like, what do we do? And so there are these geographic structures in Turkey, especially in Rize, called yaylas. I don't know what the translation is. Yayla translation. Turkish translation to English. Plateau. I guess it is kind of like a plateau. There are these structures. You know what? Let's get MS Paint up in this. All right. Okay. So the way that the valleys work, the mountains and valleys, let's go on an MS Paint adventure. Okay. So if you take like a cross section of the mountains, then you get sort of like these big green mountains, and they're like this, and they come to where there's like a valley here. And then and then there's like a riverbed that comes through that's like between the mountains, right? There's this gorgeous phenomenon. Sophie has 5 cousins. Sophie's Turkish. So that's, I mean, Sophie's family is not pulling their weight. Advanced topography software is Pictionary. Okay. So there are these rivers, and it's like really, really gorgeous green mountains, right? But the higher you go up the mountains, this crazy thing starts happening where the mountains kind of like the riverbeds open up and they start to kind of go like this. So this is like a before and after here. I'm not an artist. So they start kind of going like this, and there are still rivers that flow. Okay. And when you're super high in elevation, when you get past like a certain, near like the summit of the mountains, near the zenith, then this thing starts happening where, actually, let's just move this entire thing over here. All right, okay, so when you're far enough up the mountain, then what happens is that these plateaus emerge, and they're called yaylas, where it's like flat and there's like riverbed and then mountain again. And it makes for these like gorgeous, surreal, like unearthly areas where there's like sort of shrubbery out here. And it's like a flat valley where you can sort of live and you're like hugged by the mountains, but it's like, there's still a lot of topographic relief, but it feels like you're on like a little mesa, like above the clouds, where all of the trees sort of die down and get really tiny. You start like get closer to sort of like a taiga-esque climate. And those great plateaus are where a lot of like hermits live and people who kind of raise like small groups of livestock, like animal grazing. A lot of beekeeping happens up there, and all of the greenery sort of gets closer to the ground, and it turns into shrubbery, and then it turns into just grass. And then there are these beautiful wildflowers, and the further up you go, the closer you are to the clouds, up to an elevation of like, we're talking, I don't know, like 8,000 feet or something like that, maybe. It's like Batman has a really bad day. Whatever. And so these, when you get like really far up, like driving straight up these really precarious mountain roads into like an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours into the mountains, you emerge on top from like, you're boxed in by these valleys at like the very bottom of the mountain. And then at the top, it sort of opens up into these gorgeous plains. It's really difficult to describe, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And so we decided, we had like 12 cousins. And so we're like, you know what? The weather sucks, but let's go on a big old cousin adventure because we haven't seen each other in years. Everyone's like gotten married and had jobs. And so like back in my youth, you know, we used to like run around wearing like burlap sacks and like traipsing around the mountains together. And those days are long gone. Now we all have office jobs. I'm still in school. You know, so we all scattered to the wind, and so we thought, big old cousin reunion, let's go on an adventure together. So we pack up, we pack ourselves into 3 sort of like SUVs. Okay, actually, 2 of them are SUVs. One of them, I have a cousin who's a little bit older, and he is a graphic designer, which is like a pretty uncommon profession in Turkey. And he's also very like successful, and so he's got a decent amount of money, especially for like Turkish standards. And he really likes technology, and he's all about he buys nice stuff. And so he has a Mini Cooper, which is like even more expensive in Turkey than it is in America for like tax reasons. Anyway, so we've got 2 SUVs and a Mini Cooper. And we start at the base of this mountain and we're just driving. And we don't have plans, but we're like, you know what? We'll just go where the road takes us and we'll find a spot and we'll like sit together and we'll just like be together and like have a great time. And so we decide on a whim on our way up at like the base of the mountain, we're like, you know what? Let's do like a barbecue type situation. There are like restaurants along the valleys. There are really nice like tourism areas and stuff. There's a lot of whitewater rafting as well at like the base of the mountains. And so normally when you go up there, you eat at the restaurants, but we were like, no, let's do like old school. And so there's this traditional Turkish barbecue. It's called a mangal in Turkish. Show you guys. It's basically, it's a metal tray. It's a metal tray that you put coals onto. And then you cook with it. And this is like the barbecue implement of choice. It's basically a box with legs. And you burn coals on it, and then you put like a grate of like meat and vegetables on it, and you prepare food. And this is like what all Turkish families do on like their picnic nights out, you know, like when you go picnicking, which is what we decided to do, we decided, okay, let's mangal. So we purchased a mangal, we purchased a bunch of meats and vegetables, and like someone packed some like knives and cutlery from their house. And so we bought some coal, we bought some wood, we bought a hatchet, and we stuffed the cars, and we were like, okay, we're gonna like go up the mountains or whatever. And so we're on our way up the mountains. We have the age range it ranges from like my youngest cousin there was probably 14 and the oldest was like 40 something. There were some like really old cousins who didn't have quite like the youthful exuberance that the rest of us did. But leading the pack was my cousin with the Mini Cooper, and he's like trailblazing for us. He's like, we're gonna go up the mountain. Let's do this. And I was in the front seat with him. We're blasting music. We're in his Mini Cooper. We're like driving up the mountain, and then the 2 SUVs are like bringing up the rear. Roughly between like here and here, roads kind of stopped being paved, and between here and here, roads stopped existing. So we're going up. It's been like an hour and a half, and we're like near sort of where these like yaylas start happening, right? And I took a little bit of video of the drive up. Let me share some of that with you guys. This is just the most gorgeous. Give me full HD. So gorgeous mountain view, right? There was a lot of fog. And so the further up, this is like the stream, the mountain stream between the valleys. Turkish and Russian picnicking are very similar. There you go. This is when there was still a bit of a road. There are these gorgeous like waterfalls that you can see coming down through the mountains. Hopefully the bit rate is like sufficient for you to actually see this. It's like a cobblestone road. It's just so beautiful. And so this is maybe like halfway up the trip. And so we're going, and we don't really know where we're going. We don't have a plan. We're just like, fuck it, we ball. We're going up the mountain. And so when we start approaching like the lowest level of these yaylas, where there's sort of like this plateau where you can actually sit and like have food, it gets really foggy and you can't see shit. And so we're like, I don't know, this isn't like the best location for us to sit. And all of the old people, and one of my younger cousins, who's a real curmudgeon, is like, we're like, what are we waiting for? Let's just like do our picnic here and leave. Like there's no need to go further up the mountain because there's nothing there. And the further up we go, the further away we stray from. And then here are pictures from like some of the lower yaylas. You can see, I mean, the mountain quickly disappears into like the mist, but you can see how it's sort of flat, and there's like this gorgeous river stream that like comes right through, right? So this is on the way up. These nice little waterfalls. It looks really scenic. It looks really gorgeous. And so we pass this location, you can see like the sort of circuitous like mountain roads. And cousins are like, let's stop here, why not? But my adventurous cousin and I in like the very front of the convoy are like, no, like we gotta go further up the mountain. We're just looking for an adventure. We like really, we don't have any plan, but we want to keep going. And so we're always like every like 20 minutes, it's been like an hour and a half now. Every 20 minutes after that, we stop and the people in the rear two vehicles come up to us and they're like, let's stop. Like, where are you guys going? We're like, no, like a little bit up ahead. Like, we know this place. It's going to be great. And slowly but surely, we stop seeing other like humans because people are no longer inhabiting like the very tops of the far reaches of the mountain. And this shrubbery starts dying away into like, it's just like dirt. Like we get to a point where it's just dirt and you can't really tell where the road is. It's just like a bunch of random like landslides of rocks on like sort of flatness that the cars have a lot of trouble like moving over, but we're like, no, let's keep going. And then my adventurous cousin is like, listen, I know this guy, okay? I've been on this adventure like 3 or 4 years ago. There's this guy, Uncle Mustafa is his name. He's got like a little shack and it's at like the very top of this yaila. It's like another like hour to go, he's telling me, but he's like, don't tell anybody else because if we say we're driving for another hour, then they're like definitely not going to be in for that. And he's got like this gorgeous little sort of hut and he like lives up there as like a hermit. And he has sort of a flat area that we can like pay him a little bit of money and like use his basically like backyard area and have like a nice picnic up there. And it's going to be great. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Another hour into the mountains. We already like, there's no road. We can't see any humans. I don't know if the Mini Cooper is going to make it up there. Every time we stopped to ask for directions, everyone, the first thing they do is they like look at the car. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you bringing this vehicle to this like untouched part of the earth? Like you're fucking up your car. And he's like, don't question me, old man. Like, what direction do we go? Just give us directions. And we pass people and then we're like, hey, like, is the weather any better? Like at the top of the mountain? They're like, no, like it just gets foggier and you stop being able to see even like the few feet in front of you that you can see right now. There's nothing up there. And we're like, oh, that doesn't sound great. And then the people from the back cars are like, what did they say? How is the weather up there? And we're like, yeah, no, it gets really good. There's sun just like 20 minutes up that way. Don't worry. And so we keep going. And then the back two cars get increasingly frustrated. But we're having the time of our lives out front. We're giddy. We get lost a few times. It's fine. On the way up the mountain, we run into, like, we get to, like, the very top of the mountain. It's been, like, a solid 2.5 hours of driving. The people behind us are exasperated, but we're now at the summit of, like, a mountain. It's, like, 8,000 feet or something. It's, like, 2,500 meters or something like that, which isn't 8,000 feet. No, it is. Whatever. We're really high up in the air. We've reached like the summit of the mountain and it go down from there. Like we've reached the peak and there isn't anywhere to stop. It's like, if you look off of the road, it's like cliff side and it's so foggy that you can't see the bottom. But there's nowhere for us to stop. So we've already gone too far. We can't like go back. And so one of the cars gets stuck and it was so funny. My cousin, I wish I had filmed it, but my curmudgeonly cousin who's driving the car in like the very rear loses his shit. He's like, fuck you, like what the fuck are we doing up here? Fuck you guys, I can't believe you dragged me all the way out here, like I'm never coming out with you again. And he like got his car stuck and we were like giving him shit. We were like, well, you should have told us that you didn't know how to drive, my guy. You're getting your car stuck up here, we're only on a mountain. And then we got the car free. We had to like push it up the mountain. It was a lot of fun. And so we're at the top, we're about to come back down. We run into, of all people, two cyclists. They're biking up this mountain path. And I see them and I scream at them. I'm like, hello. Like, what the fuck? With other humans? And they're like, hello. And I'm like, is this Palovit? It's the name of the yayla. There are like tiers, and these yaylas, these plateaus, have names of increasing like seriousness. There's like Elevit, and then Televit, and then Palovit is like the very top yayla at like the very summit of this mountain. And we're like, Palovit yayla, is that like here in Turkish? And they're like, no Turkish. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I was like, English, maybe? And they're like, some English. And I was like, is this the Palovit yayla? And they're like, yeah, Palovit, that way. Yeah, they like bring out their like topographical maps. These two motherfuckers are cycling across Turkey. They're Polish. Two Polish cyclists. It's their first time ever in Turkey. They decided to come to this for whatever reason. They found this like misty mountain, and they've decided to bike all the way up it. And they're like, you're the first humans that we've seen in days. We have been on this mountain for 4 days trying to bike up this mountain. We don't really know where we're going. And I was like, damn, that's dope. One of my cousins spent a year in Poland, coincidentally, and so he like had some Polish, and so we were able to speak with them. They had a little bit of English too, and they were like, yo, does the weather like get, we've only been in a cloud for like 4 days. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be rainy for the next like 2 weeks. And the man's face, it was a man and a woman, but I've just never seen such heartbreak on a man's face. He was just like, weeks? Did you say weeks? I was like, sorry, man. If you like go down the other side of the mountain, like near the coast, it gets like really pretty. And he was like, yeah, we've just been waiting for the weather to clear up. But it was two cyclists from Poland, and they were on this mountain, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so we keep going. Now we're going down this misty mountain. At this stage, you really can't see anything. You can see there's like dirt road, and then like sheer cliffside like up a mountain, and then sheer cliffside like down a mountain. And there's no, like, you hope that you're not gonna like drive off the edge of this mountain, right? And so we keep going, and then we run in, dog, we run into a goat herder who has a convoy of 300 to 400 goats. He's not sure. This is all we can see for like an hour. It's just road and then mountain like downward. And it's all mist. You can't see shit. And so we run into this guy, and it's like goats as far as the eye can see. It's hundreds of goats, and he's got like dogs that are like shepherd dogs that are like with him, these little puppies. These dogs are really popular in Turkey. They're called Kangals, or Anatolian sheep dogs. Anatolian shepherd dogs, I think, is like the American name of the breed. And so we run into goats, and we're like, what's happening? And this guy comes in. They have joint issues. I don't know. I don't know that that's true. I guess they're a pretty big variety, but they're not crazily like overbred or anything. I think they're pretty wolfish as far as like dogs go. But maybe they have joint issues. Turkish ones, I think, are generally fine. Anyway, we're driving through. We're like, we got to get through. And this man is like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? This shepherd guy, these are all his goats. And we're like, no, we're like from the area. And he's like, oh, dope. Yeah, no, I'm just here with my goats. And we're like, how many goats do you have? And he's like, 300 to 400. I'm not really sure. I don't know where they're grazing. He's just like carrying them up the mountain. And so we start making our way. Let's pick up the playback speed here to 2x. This is a small fraction of the goats. Let's skip forward a little bit here. He starts clearing the way for us. We make a little bit of small talk. The goats are really cute. Here we go. Okay, he helps us get through. I don't know how much an umbrella helps when you're literally in a cloud, but this road is, by the way, pretty good as far as like the roads that we were driving through go. We have a little bit of conversation. Just more goat. It's just an ocean of goats. Just so many goats, and they're really cute. And the dogs were also really cute, and some of the dogs were like still puppies. They were still trying to figure out like how do shepherding work, and some of the goats just really didn't want to put up with their shit, and so they would periodically just like ram these poor fucking dogs like off of the mountain. I saw multiple dogs like yeeted off the side of this mountain by the goats. They were like, fuck off. It was really cute. Yeah, so goats happened, and then we ran into some of the cutest cows I've ever seen. Check out these cows. They had little like crowns. They had little like sort of hand intricate made like bead crowns. We met a bunch of cows on our way down this mountain. Dog murder. Anyway, cows. The dogs were fine. Put hair on their chest. So cows were cute. Okay, eventually we make our way to, we come to the fabled Palovit Yaila. It's been like three and a half hours that we've been on this road trip. People are like aching and moaning. We're finally there. Bits of the Mini Cooper have fallen off because we weren't actually driving it up roads. And we find the hut that the old hermit that my cousin met like 4 or 5 years ago lived in, and he's gone. The hut is boarded up, and it turns out that he fucking died. The old man died, and we were just there, and here's like an aerial view. Is this where we made camp? It is where we made camp, I believe. Right? Or is this more driving? Give me a second. I haven't organized these clips. This is more driving. You can't really see shit. Okay. I guess this is where we stopped. Okay, this is where we stopped. This used to be like a little bungalow type area. This is where my cousin made camp before. And so we stop on the side of the road. This is a mountain that we can't see the top of, but it's like misty. There's a road that leads just to like nowhere. And then there's this big open area down here, which is like this huge flat valley, and there's like a river stream. And then that is the boarded up hut that the hermit that we were coming to see used to live in. It is no longer occupied. So we decide, okay, we could make camp on the side of the road, but that's no fun. So let's just like hike a little bit up this mountain, and we find like this flat clearing. And I take video from up there. So this is like a really sort of gently sloping up into like the mist. There's like nothing up there. The traditional Riza submerged house. There's this beautiful mountain stream that runs through here. That's the road down there. And this flat clearing is where we decide to make camp for the day after our like 3+ hours of journey. This is the road. You can't see shit because of the mist. This is the dead hermit's house. This is where I decided to relieve myself because I really, really had to pee. So I climb up the little, like a piece of the mountain. And can you see here? All right, you see this cow? So I decided to climb up the mountain and hide behind these rocks and ferns to finally use the bathroom. My bladder is like exploding. And I get up there and I'm like, okay, privacy. I'm a private peer. I can't do it. It's just not, I can't do it with people around. So I'm desperate enough that I go here and I start peeing and I turn my head like 90 degrees and maybe like 18 inches from my face is this cow just like chilling, like chewing grass. I'm completely oblivious. He's like stealth mode and he's just like up in my shit like, hey man, how's it going? looks like you're peeing on my mountain. And I freaked out because I didn't expect it because he was like right here. I fall back. It was really funny, but he was really chill. He left me alone. I was afraid that he was going to be territorial, but he couldn't give less of a shit. We both like slowly backed away, and it was fine. So we made camp. You can see up the there are these really, really gorgeous mountain like wild flowers that happen that are sort of like all different shapes and sizes and colors. You can see there are no like trees or bushes. It's just like this really sort of disparate flora. And then there's this river. And then there's this clearing where we decided to make camp. So let me see. I have pictures of like the... right, there's this gorgeous stream. Like natural stream that was just right next to where we decided to sit. And we used it. I think I probably have a video of it. It was just coming down. It's like this sort of gentle little waterfall that comes down from like the top of the mountain. And you can't really tell where like the source or the end of it is. But it was really delightful. And you can't hear it, but like it's making this like beautiful natural babbling sound. A bunch of little mountain flowers here. Pretty blue flowers. Right. So we decide, okay, this is where Mangal is occurring. Right. We take all of our beverages. We use, this is like a Turkish refrigerator is what I call this. It's like ice cold mountain water that we use as our refrigerator. We got some melons in there. We got our beverages in there. That was fantastic. We're trying to start a mangal. And like I said, a mangal is basically just like a metal tray on legs that you put coals onto to like cook your food, right? Here I am, one of my cousins and I, we're making köfte, which is like traditional Turkish meatballs, fishing for alcoholics. Yeah, there's some booze in there. I don't drink, but some of my cousins drink. Oh, the immediate horizontal video after vertical video. Absolutely unbelievable. But there we are preparing Turkish meatballs, which is fantastic. My cousin has a drone. We can't get a fire going because we're basically in a cloud. Like you saw the mist, right? So we're trying to like rub sticks together. We got like lighter fluid that's not like catching. So we're trying to like wad up some cardboard to, you know, like fan the flames. Nothing is working. Modern problems require modern solutions. So my cousin flies his drone. Is like $2,000 drone just really close to the mangal in order to like so that the downdraft of the drone like allows the fire of the grill to catch. And if we didn't have the drone, we could not have eaten. Like this was like unnecessary. We had to use the drone to stoke the fires that we then used to cook, which is fucking hilarious. But a really weird, like Middle Earth misty mountain locale, and then we used the drone to get our grill to work, which is hilarious. Traditional Turkish drone cooking. Yeah, no, it was pretty great. We had the time of our lives, man. We ended up getting the food to work. Here's my cousin. It's a fantastic drone shot here. He's the one that had the Mini Cooper and the drone. And so food happens, we drink, we put music on, we eat, we have tea, we have traditional Turkish tea that's like wood fired in this thing called a semaver, which is basically like a Turkish double boiler pot, but in a way that you can use like firewood to like boil the, there's nothing. Semaver chai. This is the situation. You take this on a picnic. Basically, the idea is that there's like water in here, you burn wood in here, and then on top of this grate, you put like a teapot. Here, this is the situation. Water here, Turkish teapot here, and then a fire. Chef's kiss on top of this mountain. It's just so good. The thumbnail needs to be that SNL, the story has everything guy. Right, and so it cools down. This is me with my sister. We're adorable. And then night descends, and suddenly the mist starts lifting, and it is revealed to us that like just in front of where we couldn't see, it was the mist made the visibility basically out to like here was all that we could see. And suddenly this fuck off mountain emerges from the mist like, hey, I was here this entire time. It's like difficult to impossible to capture like the scale of what we saw that night, but it was this crazy otherworldly. I wish I had set up like a time lapse so we could have seen like the sort of mist like dissolve from like the mountains and this crazy big mountain emerges. But holy shit, it was gorgeous, man. We saw this like stream open up, and it turns out that there are a lot of these sort of like shacks that like littered the mountainside. But you can see it's like this big flat area. This is what I meant by like the yailas, this like flat area between the mountains. That's like exactly what is going on here. It's just this sort of flat valley. It was crazy. And so we had the time of our lives. We started singing like traditional Turkish folk songs. Here's like some long exposure photography. Oh, that is like the blurriest. That looks like an oil painting. That's kind of gorgeous. But anyway, it's nighttime, and we decide, okay, it's time to leave. Now we have to make the trek back. Now there are two ways to get down from the mountain. We can go down the way we came, which is like longer and like direct to the coast, or we can go like around the backside of the mountain, which is shorter, but somehow the roads are even worse than the roads that we hit coming up the mountain, which was really scary because it was nighttime, but we were like, fuck it. Well, just we're gonna go down. We don't want to like waste any time, so let's like go down the mountain. So we're going down the mountain. We're blasting music. A lot of us, I don't drink, but a lot, like half of my cousins were sort of like pretty drunk off of their ass. Potentially including some of the people who were driving the cars in this like 3-car convoy. We're blasting music. It's like the dead of night. It's like 10, 11 p.m. or something like that. And we make this like 2-hour trek down this mountain to like the coastline. We at some point we get out to take sort of like a pee break, and we just decide that right then and there the inspiration hits us, and like someone plays from their car traditional like Black Sea Coast music, and we do like this traditional Black Sea Coast dance called the horon, like in the middle of the road, in like the light of these cars on like the side of like a cliff. And we're just like in the middle of the road, and it's like 12 of us doing like this crazy traditional Turkish dance, like in a circle. There's like a waterfall right here. There are like these fucking 40-meter trees. It was insane. We keep going, and then we get blocked by, there's been a rock slide, and we can't, what's left of the road, which isn't even paved, there are like these boulders, and we're like, oh shit. Well, I guess we got to clear these boulders. So we get out of the cars and we go to clear the boulders. My cousin who is driving, he's in the front car. I'm in his Mini Cooper. We're driving, and he stops on the side of the road. He gives maybe like 2 meters of clearance to the right of the car. Except, and here's where I need a new, I need a diagram for this. Okay, so we're on the road. It's like this circuitous mountain road, right? Here, the car is here. He gives about 2 meters of clearance between like the right side of the car, the passenger side of the car, and the right side of the road. He stops, and up ahead is like the rock slide that we have to clear so that we can make way for, these are like boulders. These are like boulders up ahead that we have to clear, okay? They're not massive, but they're like heavy. We have to roll the boulders, okay? This is the clearance of the road. This is about 2 meters. Except right where the passenger side door is, where there's a massive dip from the side of the road, like into the road, and I open like my car door. There's like window here, car door handle, and I step out of the car, and my foot slips into this ditch. And I notice, like, immediately, I'm like the one motherfucker who hasn't drunk, right? So I'm stone sober, And so I like grab onto the car door to like hold myself, and I'm like, fuck, what the shit was that? There is nothing here. And I took a picture of it. It's just a drop into an infinite abyss. And I pull out my flashlight. This is where the car door ends. This is like a slope. This section right here is like a slope down. And this is like more than 90 degrees straight down steepness. I turned on my flashlight and I couldn't see the bottom of this pit. So this is like at least like a 20-meter drop of just death. There's no bottom. I like legit, no cap, almost died. Like if I had just stepped and not caught the door, I would have fallen off of the road and they wouldn't have been able to find my body until like the next morning at least, when they could have sent like search parties up. I dropped like a rock down here to see, and I didn't hear it hit the bottom. I just heard it bang against the side of the cliff. I almost died. And it was like the end of the night. It was like 1 a.m. We had just driven down like most of the mountain, and it was after this crazy adventure. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was really shaken up. And I told my cousins, I was like, hey, so I almost died. And my driver's cousin came out from behind. He came to see the passenger side, and he was like, oh shit, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Almost killed you, didn't I? I was like, yeah. Genuinely almost died. It was such a freak thing. I was shaken up for a few days after that. Besides just the insanity of like the story with like the Polish people, and then like the craziness of the drive itself, which I realized I didn't document very well in the photos, and then the 400 goats, and then we saw the hermit in the Misty Mountain and he ended up being dead, and then we made camp and we used the drone, and then we did the dancing in the midnight on the mountain roads, and then I almost died. And then we drove home, and then everybody went to sleep, and it was a really good time. Not the end of the story. Right at the base of the mountain, their sort of routine, there are kind of like 3 tiers of police in Turkey. There's like Zabıta, which is kind of like traffic police, and they're in like heavily urban areas. There's like the police, which is like they deal with like, I don't know, like normal police shit, like homicides and stuff, I guess. And then there's the gendarma, which is like kind of countryside police. They're like slightly more militarized. They sort of survey the more like rural areas, and they take control over. They have a lot of like checkpoints on like large roads, especially in touristy areas, just to check that everyone has their documentation so that there aren't like runaways, people like evading the draft, people in the country illegally, a lot of stuff like that. So there's a checkpoint, or so we think, at like the base of this mountain right before you go out into the coast. And my cousin, who's like had alcohol that he shouldn't have had, and they're pretty zero tolerance about that in Turkey, and B, for some reason doesn't have a license. Don't worry about it. He sees the police, and he's also had a bit to drink, and so he like panics, and he like swerves off of the road and like almost rolls the car. Not a big deal, but he freaks the fuck out, and he like pulls over, and I'm like, holy shit, what happened? And he was like, police checkpoint up ahead. I don't want to get jailed. Turkish prison is scary. So can you take the wheel? It's like, sure. So I take the wheel. It wasn't a police checkpoint. It was something else. There was like construction or something. But he almost like drives us off the road. Don't drink and drive, kids. But then that was the last hurdle. Then we finally made it out onto the coast. We took the freeway back up to like my village. And then I live to share this story with you today. There are a couple really dope fucking drone shots that my cousin took, so I'll share those with you guys. But this was my adventure. I had a few adventures this summer, but this was the most adventurous adventure. Zabıtalar sağda solda vergisiz kaçak satıcılar için varlar kuzen. Off the record, I understand. There's like there's a lot of shady business that they're trying to capture. It's just this gorgeous drone footage. But Lion, are you Turkish? Was that Google Translate? Or I guess you know what you're talking about based on your I guess the tier 3. Of course my first tier 3 is someone I know. I have to guess, is this Okan? Are you Okan? Prefer to Maldives? I don't think Okan's been to the Maldives. Yo, check this shit out. This is some National Geographic shit, dog. We drove all the way to Turkey from London for my holiday. Hey, that's a nice, you know, going through all of like sort of the Balkan countries and stuff. That can be like a nice, there's some cool like aerial drone footage of just us as we've made our camp. Olin, why don't you tell me who you are? Holy fuck! What the fuck is this? 20 tier 1 gift subs? That's crazy.